Yo, what is going on, everybody? You have Tone here, the coach of your Miami Malamarlins, and I am here bringing you guys my draft recap for the inaugural season of the PTL, or the Pokemon Tri-League Championship Division number 2. So, as you can see, it's a new league, similar format and all that stuff. But this is basically sort of like the PPL, where it's basically a bunch of coaches that's been separated into 3 separate divisions: Division 1, Division 2, and Division 3. Each of those divisions having 16 coaches, so 48 coaches in all, split up into 3 divisions. And we are in Division 2 for this inaugural season of the PTL here. So this pretty much is the continuation from the NSTL, where it was just 2 separate conferences of 12, and now they decided to expand it, and seeing as how successful the NSTL went, they decided to expand it to the P and rebrand to the PTL, which is what you see here. So I was one of the people that was invited to take part in the inaugural season of the PTL, which is pretty much a similar format to the PPL, where it's a points-based system draft where you pick between 10 and 12 Pokemon within a certain amount of points. And in this case, the point value is 100. You get 130 points to draft between 10 and 12 Pokemon to fill your team as you see fit. And on top of that, we also get a Z budget of 30 points, where you have 30 points to use to make any Pokemon you draft a Z-Mon. They can use whatever Z move it wants to, as long as it isn't an Omni boosting Z move or any Z move that affects it, that drops your opponent's accuracy or something along those lines, or boosts your evasion, anything along those lines. So that's pretty much the long and short of how the draft works. So, sticking with my my preferred playstyle of bulky offense, and when it comes to draft league format, I decided to take into account some Pokemon. The draft I finished with contains some Pokemon which I've used before, but more often than not, it's a bunch of Pokemon I've actually never used in league format, with the exception of a exception of at least like 2 or maybe 3 Pokemon. And spoiler alert, there is no Clefable, Ferrothorn. None of those Pokemon made it to my squad. Came close though, but didn't happen. So with that being said, let's just jump right into the draft recap and see what I'm going to be rocking with in this inaugural season of the PTL. So out of the 16 coaches in the Division 2, the draft order was randomized. I had the 14th pick in the draft, which by my estimations, it's actually very, very good for me. I don't get any high quality Mons, or like Mons I usually go first, like Tapu Koko, Celesteela, none of that stuff. But at the very least, I'm sort of close to the wheel, so I can't really complain about that. So instead of trying to like bank on some crazy good Pokemon dropping to me at number 14, I decided to just try to play it safe and then work my way and trying to build some sort of foundation for my team. Not trying to build around one particular Pokemon, but just trying to build a team into which all my specific roles are filled in that sense. So with that being said, I wanted to make my round 1 pick something reliable, something versatile, something that's not stuck doing one thing and one thing only. So I kicked off the draft here with Garchomp, and while Garchomp isn't really that known for being a round 1 pick, at least in this format, it can still be a round 1 pick, but usually overshadowed by like Lando T and Zygarde. But Garchomp is still very, very good, especially considering the fact that you can have to factor in stuff like Z moves, stuff like it can be a stealth, still a reliable stealth rocker. It can't boost its speed like Lando T or Zygarde, but still it can be a very solid sword stance sweeper, choice scarf user. It can run Fizz Def. So it's not a one-trick pony in any sense of the word. So I felt a very strong round 1 pick, and Garchomp was justified here, especially considering I was number 14. So I felt a little bit safe grabbing it late first round pick. No skin off my back, to be perfectly honest. Garchomp can just do a lot of things for a team. One of those very, very nice sort of Gloomons, so to speak. Like I said, not stuck doing one particular thing and one particular thing well. It has multitudes of sets at its disposal, so it's very, very nice to try out, again, for my sake. So the draft ended up not being trying to build around Garchomp, but just trying to build a very safe, balanced, slash bulky offensive team while trying to fill out specific roles. So the first thing I wanted to do is make sure I had a very strong Dragon Fairy Steel Core as a foundation for my draft. With me already getting my Dragon type in Garchomp, I figured the next best thing is try to get that bulky Fairy type. Unfortunately, I was looking at trying to get Clefable round 2, but unfortunately, Clefable got taken the pick right before mine for round number 2, which does suck, but at the same time, it does give me some options to work with as another Fairy type. And there was one Fairy type which I've never used, but I was willing to give it a try at this point. I just had to change up my strategy a little bit to try to compensate for the loss of Clefable, and with that I ended up grabbing Mega Diancie round number 2. So it may seem kind of weird, but this is actually one of those combinations that's actually starting to pop up a little bit more recently, the combination of Garchomp plus Mega Diancie, considering the fact that Garchomp can handle most steel types which Mega Diancie does struggle to deal with or try to check from a defensive standpoint, but more often than not, Mega Diancie is still a very solid Pokemon, nice offensive stats, good speed tier at base 110, which is nice, base 160 attack and special attack across the board, so I can easily run mixed sets. And it has a lot of other options at its disposal. Surprisingly, it can do Stealth Rock, even though it loses bulk when it Mega Evolves. It can also run some other cool stuff like Substitute with Endeavor. I'm feeling risky, I can run like Heal Bell or something like that, act as a support set for the rest of my team. So again, it's not really something that's that Mega Diancie is keen on being a one set only mod. It also gets access to Rock Polish, Calm Mind, stuff like that. So while the pairing doesn't look good on paper, I still like the Garchomp Mega Diancie aspect here, and I was trying to build a very strong Dragon Fairy Steel Core, and I felt like these two was the makings of a good strong foundation in that regard. So grab Mega Diancie to compensate for Clefable. Not really the way of trying to like compensate, but there weren't any other Fairy types that I was looking at that I actually wanted to try out for the most part. So Mega Diancie was the way to go for me at the very least, and it also gives me some other offensive potential aside from Garchomp, so that's also very nice. So with that being said, moving on to my round 3 pick, wanted to finish the Dragon Fairy Steel Core. I was looking at Ferrothorn, I was looking at Skarmory, both got taken. So I could have waited later on to try to get a good steel type like Bronzong or whatnot, but there was one steel type that was just lurking around for round number 3. So I had to go and pick it up, even though it kind of looks iffy on my squad, but in due time I think it will work out very, very well, and that Pokemon just happened to be Jirachi. So I've completed my Dragon Fairy Steel Core, pretty much one of the fastest Dragon Fairy Steel Cores I've ever picked up, with Garchomp, Mega Diancie, and Jirachi. Jirachi is just nice because for the most part it gives me another Stealth Rocker, so I already got 3 Rockers and 3 picks. I got a Wish user, Momentum Grabber with U-Turn, Healing Wish, has the ability to go both physical and special, with Choice Scarf sets, Calm Mind sets, but especially defensive sets. So again, another solid, versatile Pokemon at my disposal, which is very, very nice. Haven't used Jirachi in a while, and I feel like I got a steal getting Jirachi round number 3, so I'm not going to complain either way. So So I have my foundation here with my Dragon Fairy Steel Core, Garchomp, Mega Diancie, Jirachi. I'm feeling pretty good going into the rest of my draft. So what I did after I fortified my Dragon Fairy Steel Core was to make sure I had good responses, or good bulky responses to all the other stuff that I'm paranoid about. So the first thing on my agenda was making sure I try to get a bulky water type here in round number 4. And the bulky water type I had in mind here, I ended up picking up Suicune. So in all my experience of using bulky water types, Suicune was always the one of the Pokemon in which I wanted to try, but never got the option to draft because it was always gone by the time it comes back to me, or I already had another bulky water type on the draft already. But Suicune is just very, very solid because of the fact that it's bulky enough to act as a ground check. It can do Crocoon, Roarcoon, surprising you with offensive sets, so it's not just stuck being like a bulky mon and people will get all upset because they can't break past it. Suicune has some good offensive potential too, even though most people use it as a defensive sort of stally pivot, so to speak. But overall, it pairs up very, very nice with my draft because of the fact that some of my Pokemon do struggle with ground types. Like I have Mega Diancie and Jirachi, which are weak to ground, and Suicune can act as a pretty decent water check with Scald, Ice Beam. Also pressures other grass types with like Ice Beam, Extra Sensory for like those Amoonguses or whatnot, Air Slash, the whole 9 yards. So just listing off a couple of options there for Suicune, but having a nice bulky mon like Suicune is very, very nice. Eats the pressure off of my Garchomp that gets like a fire check. Same thing with my Mega Diancie, so very, very nice in that regard. So that is my round 4 pick in Suicune. So I figure that with this particular draft, I figure the one thing that would go very, very well with this this group of mons so far is to have some sort of additional way of getting up hazards, and of course there's no better hazard after Stealth Rocket Spike. So looking for a good spiker to get round 5, and that is just so happened to be Rosemarie. So this is my first time actually using Rosemarie in the draft league format, but Rosemarie is just so nice for this draft, especially when you combine it with something like Suicune that can phase stuff out with Roar, and Garchomp with Dragon Tail. So if I get up Stealth Rock and some spikes, the damage will be racking up very, very quick. And on top of that, Rosemarie is not just limited to just being a spiker. It can be offensive with Life Orb, Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, even run specially defensive sets act as a better water check, which is very, very cool. And I also get a T-Spike Absorber, which helps out something like Suicune. It helps out Mega Diancie, so I don't have to rely on it trying to match the balance and whatnot. So far the team is looking very, very nice with this group of 5 I have right here. So after I picked up Rosemarie, the one thing I wanted to address after getting these mons, the one thing I wanted to address was my lack of speed, because I at least want to have one Pokemon that's faster than base 110. So looking at what was available, the only mon that I really felt comfortable trying out and using in that regard would just so happen to be Excelboris. So I needed something fast. Excelboris fits the bill and then some. Base 145 speed gives me another spiker. It doesn't have to be a suicide spiker. I can also run an offensive Life Orb. I can also do Suicide Lead with like Final Gambit, which is also a pretty cool option at my disposal. It gets access to stuff like Encore, U-Turn for more momentum. So I have all the momentum options at my disposal if I want to go that route. But Excelboris in and of itself is a pretty cool mon, not gonna lie. And the weaknesses to Excelboris are covered pretty decently by my team with Garchomp, Mega Diancie, Suicune resisting fire, Jirachi resisting rock, and so on and so forth. But mainly Excelboris' job here is just to be that revenge killer for those fast mons that can give my team trouble and whatnot. So that is my Excelboris. So now moving on to the back end of the draft here. So there were a couple of things I obviously don't have so far on my team. For starters, while I do have good options with 3 Stealth Rockers and 2 Spikers, I have no hazard removal. And while I don't really care much for removal, it's still nice to have that sort of option at my disposal. And the other thing I didn't have was a ground resist, because so far all my team is grounded, so Earthquake is looking very, very threatening against my team. So I wanted to pick up something that can remove hazards and act as a good ground check or immunity. So with that, my round 7 pick just so happened to be Manda Buzz. So like I said, need a ground check, Manda Buzz covers that. Need a hazard remover, Manda Buzz covers that. On top of that, because it's a dark type, I get a psychic immunity. So I'm not relying on Jirachi to switch in on those physical psychic type attacks. They can do special but not physical. Same thing with Manda Buzz, but mainly Manda Buzz's job is just to be coming in, act as a defensive pivot to those physical threats to my team. It can taunt, toxic, defog, roost, foul play, knock off, U-turn for momentum. Tailwind is also very, very nice overall, considering the fact that, like I said, it's kind of redundant that I have a defogger and with 2 spikers, but if the situation calls for it, I don't even have to run defog on Manda Buzz, because taunt in and of itself is also very good at deterring opposing players from trying to get up rocks against my team. So I'm not so reliant on Mega Diancie just coming in, going hard Diancie to like bounce back a spike or rocks or whatnot. So I'm having Manda Buzz as that safe backup option to get rid of hazards. It's also very nice. And like I said, it also acts as a very good psychic check, thanks to it being immune to psychic with its dark type stabs, dark typing. So that is very, very cool. So that is my Manda Buzz. So going into the last few rounds of the draft, the other thing I wanted to address was having some more momentum and getting at least one more remover for my team, while also having some sort of good speed tier for my team, because so far my speed tiers are kind of like chunked in the middle between 80 and 100. Which was not my intention, but it just ended up going that way. But so to continue that trend of having that speed tier very, very cluttered, around 8 we ended up picking up Silvally. So like I said, Silvally all types, so that's also very cool. I get another defogger, I get momentum with U-turn or parting shot. Parting shot is very, very nice, especially considering the fact that I have a bunch of setup potential with SD Garchomp, Calm Mind Mega Diancie, Calm Mind Jirachi, Suicune. So Parting Shot helps out those mons tremendously, and the fact that I can run all types on Silvally just means that it becomes a little bit more difficult for my opponent to prep for specific forms of Silvally if I do decide to bring it at certain times. So couldn't go wrong in that aspect there, especially considering the versatility is just very, very nice, and considering its move pool, again, very, very solid in that regard. So yeah, so that is my Silvally for round number 8. And then moving on to the last few rounds, I didn't want to get overwhelmed by potential setup sweepers, because my team is looking pretty weak to those for the most part, because of the team is still pretty slow outside of Excelboris. So I want to have a fallback option in case setup mons become a real pain for my team. So with that, I picked up Quagsire. And I did it for 2 reasons. I already mentioned the first reason, which was to deter setup mons from trying to overwhelm my team. The other reason is mainly for the fact that I have a Garchomp on my team, and when it comes to having, in my case at least, when I have a ground type that's weak to ice, I want to make sure I try to pick up another ground type that's not weak to ice, so that way I can force some mind games with my opponent to choose between running HP Ice to hit Garchomp or HP Grass to hit Quagsire. When you have that inability, when you have the ability to force your opponent to choose which one they can't do much damage to, it can really help out the team overall as a whole. I mean, of course, there are some Pokemon that can bypass this altogether, but the option still stands and forces some more additional prep on my opponent's side. So Quagsire is just very nice for those setup mons. Like I said, it can also be another setup mon in itself thanks to Curse. That can be just a very standard stall set with like Skull, Toxic, Recover, EQ. List goes on and on. So that is my Quagsire for round number 9. And moving on, I only have 12 points left. I ended up picking up 2 more Pokemon for this team. The first Pokemon I ended up picking up was Pyroar here. And Pyroar here is just basically nice because I wanted to have like a good fire type at the very least. Pyroar did fit the bill. It was like a very cheap fire type Pokemon to get, and it's very underrated in League format, considering the fact that you can run Choice Specs, Choice Scarf, Taunt 3 attacks with Life Orb, even Z move on Pyroar is very underrated and solid overall. On top of that, Pyroar just gives me a very good speed tier, base 106 speed, so I have another Pokemon which outspeeds those base 100s. I can outspeed base 105s, like specific stuff like Scarf Mienshao or something like along those lines. I can revenge kill like stuff like that, which is very cool. But overall, Pyroar is just very solid. Fits my draft pretty well. It's just to give me some more offensive firepower, which I kind of lacked. So that is pretty much it for my Pyroar. And then with my last pick in the draft, I ended up going up with Medicham. And the reasoning for Medicham is basically the one thing I did not have on my draft prior to Medicham was the fact that I had no priority. Like, you look up and down my draft, my only real priority outside of Medicham is Water Shuriken on Excelboris. That's it. That was literally it. I had nothing else in terms of priority on my draft whatsoever. And Medicham is also very beneficial of my team because of the Stealth Rock and Spikes options. I get access to Fake Out, so it gets an additional chip damage. I also get Bullet Punch for priority. And I also get momentum because Medicham does get access to Baton Pass. While you can't Baton Pass boost in this league, it's still nice to Dry Pass for some momentum to get in something else on a potential switch into Medicham, which is very nice. And Medicham in and of itself benefits from the Stealth Rock and Spikes options, like I said from before. So that's the draft, ladies and gentlemen. This is the team for your Miami Malamarlins for Season 1 of the PTL. Before I forget, my Z-Mons for this team, I decided to pick Garchomp, Excelboris, and Pyroar as my Z-Captains, as all 3 of them are solid options in their own right for reasons I spoke about before. So yeah, that is pretty much the draft analysis here. I hope you guys did enjoy. If you did, feel free to leave a like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. And yeah, this is gonna be a very exciting season, not gonna lie. I do feel like this team does fit my image of a team I would probably draft in like other leagues. And I'm definitely excited to use some of these Pokemon which I've never used before, or get reacquainted with stuff like Garchomp and Jirachi, which I've used on previous occasions. But that's pretty much gonna be it for me, guys. Don't want to ramble on any more than I've already done so. Team builders will start up this coming Friday, the 23rd. Not 23rd, the 24th, excuse me. So team builder for week number 1 will be on the 24th, and the battles will be up on every Saturday starting next week, the 25th. So hope you guys are looking forward to that, and I'm going to catch you guys next time. So until the next time, this is Tone signing out for now. Peace out.